Hi, thanks for joining us for the Family Plots, Gardening in the Mid-South. I'm Chris Cooper. Ikebana is the centuries-old Japanese art form of flower arranging. We are going to see how it is done. Also, there's always a weed in the lawn. We're going to look at different ways to apply weed killer. That's just ahead on the Family Plots, Gardening in the Mid-South.
Production funding for the Family Plot, Gardening in the Mid-South is provided by the WKNO Production Fund, the WKNO Endowment Fund, and by viewers like you. Thank you.
Welcome to the Family Plots. I'm Chris Cooper. Joining me today is Mary Heim. Miss Mary is a master gardener right here in Shelby County, and Mr. D is joining us today.
Howdy.
Thanks for being here.
Thank you.
Always good to have you, Miss Mary.
Thank you.
All right, so Ikebana, right? What is Ikebana? I've heard the term, of course, a lot of times, but what is it exactly?
It's an art form. It's a Japanese form of flower arranging that's quite different from the American style.
Okay.
And it's much simpler, a lot of open space. And in Japan, they often put their arrangements in a little alcove, and they use it as a form of meditation even when you're creating your design.
Okay.
So like when there's a class in Ikebana that's offered at Memphis Botanic Garden, and when we go to class we try and remain quiet.
Wow.
So you can listen to what the flowers want you to do.
You heard that, Mr. D? We're listening to the flowers.
That's not like
Well,
it. That's not like Master Gardener class.
Oh, okay.
Like Master Gardener class.
All right.
But
All right.
So we have, what I want to do is show you some of the more primary basic
Okay.
designs that you would learn in a beginner's class.
Okay.
And there's different schools of Ikebana, and I have been going to Ichio Ikebana.
Ichio.
Ichio. When in Japanese, the I's are pronounced like E's.
Okay.
So that's why Ikebana is Ikebana.
Gotcha. Getting a good lesson here. Okay.
And one of the first ones that we always started with was, this is called a moribana or suibana, a low round bowl.
Okay.
Or it could be a low long rectangular size.
Okay.
And most people, and I also want to emphasize it, I'd love for y'all to try it at home, because you can really just take any kind of pan at home, and do something with it. You don't have to have expensive containers.
Okay.
And so I thought I'd show you how to do that. You start with this. Your next item you use is called a kinzan. It can be shown as a needle point.
Okay.
A lot of people have them from the grandmother's time. It's quite sharp.
Wow, it is sharp.
Yeah, and you can get them in different. The needles can be further apart. You would place the kinzan never in the middle. You would always place it to one side up front. There's a rule about summertime; it's in this end of it. So you don't have to put it in the middle, because this is going to be very asymmetrical. It's not what you're used to. But the thing about it is, you can buy 3 flowers and pick some greenery from your yard, and that's it. So you could buy an expensive flower by stem, and it would work just fine.
Okay.
I'm going to work towards facing me, and then I'm going to roll it around so you can see how I do it.
Okay.
And the first thing I'm going to use is my hydrangeas. These came
Those
from.
are beautiful, by the way.
Well, they came from my yard. I had
Oh, look
quite
at you.
a few of them, and I'm very pleased with the way they came out this year.
Oh, you should be. Yeah, those are beautiful.
And
Oh, you are a master gardener, though, right? I mean, that's to be expected, right, Mr. D? All right.
okay, you would always put your largest one on the bottom. So we're going to try and find the best top one. All the time you remove almost all the leaves, because there's beauty in the stem itself.
Beauty in the stem. Okay.
So this might be too long, but I'm going to use 3 flowers and make a triangle. And you want the first one to be as long, certainly as long as your container is. And then the next one should be 3/4 the size of this one. And then the next one should be 3/4 the size of the second one. So sometimes you have to trim and, you know, work with it. So I'm going to place this first. I like this one, so I need to trim it off just a little bit. So I don't want it nearly as tall. Get rid of some of these leaves. You also like to lean, and with a Kinzan, you can cut them at an angle and then place it and lean it somewhat.
Okay.
Now my largest one, now this is pretty large. I'm going to cut it quite short, and I want it to face me.
Okay.
A lot of times you can do a silhouette, like this one to the side, so you can appreciate all forms of the flower, not just the front facing, but the side of it.
How about that? Okay.
Now I've got some aspidistra. I love this variegated.
That's a beautiful leaf.
It really is. I've started to collect things in the garden that I can actually use in flower arranging. So I've been conscious of buying things that will work for that. Now your aspidistra or your greenery should be like, there should be one between these two, one between these two, and one between these two. And you would again have a tall one. Whoop, see how that happens? You have to push it down hard, and you can hurt yourself on those needles.
They are sharp.
Yeah, you wouldn't want to just leave those laying around.
No.
I don't want to do that.
I kind of collect them. You can find them in antique stores, in some stores, but you certainly can go online and find them. Now this one, I'm going to make it quite low. And just for variety, I'm going to fold it under and stick it under the Kinzan just to hold it a bit, so that you have, you know, a little bit of variety. Let me roll this around so you can see what I've done.
All right.
And I only used one Kinzan. The other part of Ikebana is we always use a mat of some kind. And this is just like a little bamboo. You can use a placemat. You can use, I'm going to use some greenery here in a minute. But you would place this not in the center of the mat, but to the side, because once again, it's asymmetrical. So you've got something that's, I think, is lovely, but it's very simple.
Okay.
If you don't like your Kinzan showing, which you can see it, you can put small rocks in there, and you'll have, I don't have water in this, but you would, and it adds to it. Some people will actually take a leaf and add to it to hide the Kinzan. Also, we use a lot of driftwood, a lot of dried materials. You mix dried and fresh, and you could just lay it in there like that.
How about that?
So it looks, it's simple, but it's interesting.
It is.
And the point is, you'll notice so much space. Nothing's touching each other, and it shouldn't be in this particular kind of arrangement. So it's fairly easy. The containers, in the summertime you use a lighter container. In the winter you might use a darker one. There's chrysanthemums are a very Japanese Ikebana look, especially like a spider mum, you know, that open up really big. So you could do several easy arrangements. And you would put this probably, you know, on against a wall. When we work in the class, we have a background which is a trifold like kids use on their reports.
Okay.
And you get a black one or a blue one, and you can really see how it pops out then. And you can rearrange and critique your own design.
All right. Well, look, Miss Mary, we definitely appreciate the basic. This is the basic form,
Yeah,
huh?
right.
Okay.
So people will actually go try, you know? I mean, I have elaborate containers and stuff, but, you know, nobody has those.
Okay.
So I wanted to get something that people could possibly relate to.
Well, look, we appreciate the demonstration.
Thank you.
Node.
Node, yeah, that's a good one. Yeah, I remember when I was taking botany, we had nodes and internodes.
Right, I
and-
remember that.
Yeah. So I got an example of that I want to show you
Okay.
too. Right here, this is a bay leaf. You know, the plant that has, that's the herb, that's the bay leaf we buy in the grocery store. But a node is a little bit of a bump on the stem. See the little bumps? Those are called nodes, and it's the place where they're buds, and the buds can be a leaf bud or they can be a flower bud. So it's the little bump on the stem where leaves or flowers arise. And so it's a bump here, bump here, bump. And dormant, when they're dormant, you know, trees right now, you can really see,
All right, you
you know,
can.
all the little nodes.
You can.
So it's the place where the buds are, and they can be flower buds or leaf buds.
It shows up really good on corn plant
Oh yeah?
or bamboo.
Oh yeah, certainly, yeah, on
Where those
bamboo
are
for sure,
really
yeah,
the nodes.
yeah.
All right, Mr. D, let's talk about killing those weeds and lawns. How about that?
Yeah, good
Right.
thing to do. Good thing
Yes,
to do.
yes.
I'm going to first start talking about some of the least desirable,
Least desirable.
or something this hose end sprayer. I have never been able to do a very accurate job
Okay.
of applying herbicides with this. It's good for some things, you know, spraying trees
Yeah,
and
probably
things like
shrubs,
that.
right.
But I personally I don't do a very accurate job of putting products out. And most of the herbicides are very specific about how much you need to put out per 1,000 square feet. And that means if you put too much right here, you may kill your turf grass. If you put not enough over there, you're not going to kill your weeds. So you need to be pretty exact when you're applying herbicides to your lawn. You need to do a really good job making sure you get an even application.
Okay. But
Another,
you just don't prefer that though.
I do not prefer
don't
the
prefer
hose
that,
end
okay.
sprayer.
Okay.
I'll let you have that.
Yeah.
Another totally different way of putting out herbicide is dry form. There are dry forms of fertilizer out there that you can use your fertilizer spreader like this. This is an example of a fertilizer spreader, and I think it throws about a 10-foot
It
swath.
does. That's what I use at home.
Very, very accurate.
That's what I use.
And there are several herbicides out there that are strictly granular. And you can use this type of fertilizer spreader, the drop spreaders, the push type spreaders that also throw a pattern. They are very accurate, and you do a really good job with those.
Yeah.
Okay.
Right.
Probably the most common way of putting it out is using spray tanks.
Oh,
This is
yeah.
a very common spray tank. I think this one will hold 2.5 gallons of water. You see it's labeled herbicide.
That's right.
That means you don't want to use this to spray your tomatoes for late blight, because you may have a little bit of herbicide left in the tank, and you may take care of your late blight, but you may also take your tomatoes out.
But you always mention it as well. You know, always talking
Always
about
label. Right.
Label.
Very, very important. I go with a little bigger rig here. I've got a backpack
Oh,
sprayer.
yeah. Nice.
I've had this for years, and I like it because I don't have to stop and keep and pump it up.
Okay.
And then go again. But this is a backpack sprayer. It'll hold 4 gallons of material, and
You have a gauge. on
I've got a
yours, too.
pressure gauge
Yeah.
on it, so I can hold it at the pressure that I want it at, or keep the pressure at the same. With one of these, you'll start out with high pressure, and when you finish, you've got low pressure. And you're putting out more product at high pressure than you are at low pressure. So that means all you need to do is just walk faster when you got high pressure, and then slow
That's what
down,
I'm trying to do with
as
mine, right.
you're doing the low pressure. It's very important to calculate how much water you're putting out. And I had I looked at a label a little while ago of a common lawn product, and it the recommendation was 1.5 fluid ounces per 1,000 square feet.
Okay.
And that is either it's a wide range in how much water you can use, from 0.5 gallons to 6 gallons of water.
That's a lot.
Probably the more water you use, the better off you are,
Right.
in my opinion.
Okay.
That's just, there's more margin for error when you're putting quite a lot of water out, and you're probably getting better coverage too when you're putting quite a lot of water out. But what we've got here in this area right here, I think that we're thinking about treating is 500 square feet. And so you need to determine the square footage that you want to treat. The label says 1.5 fluid ounces per 1,000 square feet. That means if you're only treating 500 square feet, then you need 0.75 ounces, half of 1.5 fluid ounces. So the first thing I would do is I would put just pure water in my tank and spray that area to determine how much water I use, And we're going to do that. I've got 1.5 gallons of water in the sprayer right now, and so I'm going to spray this area, and we will then refill it and figure out how much water it takes to refill.
Oh, okay.
And if I can look at the gauge on here. If I use 1/2 gallon of water on this 500 square foot area, then I know that all I need to mix up is 1/2 gallon of water when I get ready to spray, and in that 1/2 gallon of water I need to put 0.75 fluid ounces in that 1/2 gallon of water, and then spray it exactly the same way I did when I was doing the test, and then I have no waste. I'm not overdoing it and I'm not underdoing it.
Okay.
If you want to do what I said, mentioned about putting half out going one way and half going the other way, then you half the 0.75, which would be 0.3 something or another, and you put that in a tank, put out 1/2 gallon going one way. It should be empty when you get through. Put your 1/2 gallon back in and put the other half in, and that way you can do away with your streaking. You may have some checkerboarding a little bit, but do away with your streaking. But let me put this thing on. Let's see how I'm just get this out of the way, and see how much water we're putting out in this area.
All right. So you're going to try to walk at what, normal speed, or?
Yeah, normal, just like I'm going to do when I'm spraying. And let me start right over here. I'll get back here and start.
Okay. Oh, wow.
Okay.
All right.
Let's see what we got. Okay, I put out about 1/2 gallon of water. So that's kind of what we guessed that we would do.
Okay.
So I know that when I get ready to put the product in there and spray this, I need, if I'm going to do it in one application like that, I'll put 0.75 fluid ounces. That's the way you do it.
Okay.
And it's very accurate.
No, it's real accurate. One last thing. So what are your recommendations on spraying if the wind is too high? I mean, what is too high to spray?
Don't spray if the wind is too high.
Okay.
And probably 10 miles an hour, 10 mile an hour gust is probably as high as I would go.
Okay.
Ideally 4 to 10 miles an hour is good. If it's below 4, you may actually have temperature inversion, and that can increase the possibility of volatility, picking up and going off. Don't spray at night.
Don't spray at night. Okay.
Yeah, and that's usually when the inversions are more than likely.
Okay.
But that 4 to 10 miles an hour is probably pretty good.
Okay.
Pretty good thing to keep in mind.
Okay. One last question.
One other thing I want to say, be sure you read the label and understand these herbicides kill broadleaves, and they're designed to kill certain kind of weeds.
Right.
You notice I didn't get too close to the strawberries over here because that herbicide might kill strawberries, and so I didn't even want to get any drift on it, and I didn't want to get it to where the strawberry roots would get to it. So if you're going alongside flower beds, things like that, give yourself a buffer zone. It's better to have a deal with a few weeds than to kill your desirable plants.
Okay, yeah, I was going to ask you just that. Yeah, and I'm glad you mentioned that, because most of your plants, for the most part, are broadleaf.
That's true. Most of your ornamentals.
So you got to be careful. All right, thanks for that demonstration, Mr. D.
Good deal. Most welcome.
Once garlic has actually been cured for 3 to 4 weeks somewhere in a dry spot out of the sun, it'll look kind of like this. And the easiest way to go through and clean it is actually cut off the top and then cut off the roots, because you need to leave it hanging up with all the soil on top of it. You do not wash it, because if you wash it before you hang it up, you could have a lot of mold issues along the way. So the easiest way, cut the top off, go through and cut the roots off, leave all the soil on, and these outer shells will actually peel off to a really clean bulb. And this is what you store inside your house once it's been cured. So you can go through and peel it off until you get all the dirty shell off of the garlic bulb, and that's a finished garlic bulb.
All right, here's our Q&A segment. Miss Mary, you jump in there and help us out. We'll be getting in trouble, all right?
I'll try.
All right, here's our first via email. I planted my tomatoes 2 weeks before my daughter, and they are the same variety. My garden soil is extremely humous, and her soil has never been tilled or had anything planted in it. Her plants are short and scraggly looking, but have lots of large tomatoes. Some are ripe. My plants are almost 8 feet tall and loaded with smaller green tomatoes. I've been successfully growing tomatoes for over 30 years, but this year has been disappointing so far. Why has this year not been a good tomato year? And this is from Tommy in Millington. So it's kind of interesting, you know, his daughter planted them in ground, it's never been planted, and nothing's been planted in it. Seem to be doing okay, and his, not so much, right?
Yeah.
30 years, Mr. D, he's been successfully planting tomatoes. You think it was a bad year for tomatoes?
Well, his are 8 foot tall and loaded with smaller green tomatoes. You know.
Right.
I don't. It sounds like what he's doing is promoting vegetative growth. So he may be over fertilizing a little bit. I mean, he's been growing them successfully for 30 years. So I'm not going to, you know, argue with that.
Sure.
He obviously knows what he's doing, but. You know, I can see. We had a wet spring.
We had a wet spring. See, that's my
cool.
fault.
I mean, we did. Well, I take that back. We didn't have a spring.
Yeah.
We went from winter to summer.
Yes, we did.
So I know we have quite a lot of fire blight around, but and that which usually happens when you have cool, wet weather. We had a lot of that, and so he may have had some disease pressure and some things that may have gotten a kind of a slow start. But his daughter must have inherited some of his, she's figured out, and there's nothing at all wrong with growing tomatoes on ground that's not had tomatoes grown before.
Right.
You know, his rotation is good, and so she's probably got less disease pressure than he's got if he's grown them where he's grown them for a while. But why has this year not been a good tomato year? You know, beats me. There's a lot of farmers that are saying, why has this year not been a good corn year?
Yeah.
You know, a lot of corn farmers had to replant their corn, and so.
It's been a tricky start to the year, though, if you think about it. You know, it's been wet, it's been raining, has been cold. The ground, of course, was saturated and cool for a long period of time.
Right.
You know, then, we jumped right into summer.
That's right, exactly.
Right? So if you put the tomatoes in the ground early, then they just sat there, right, until it warmed up and dried out. But yeah, I'm with you. 8 feet tall is not bad.
8 foot tall, no, and he's got them coming. So they're loaded with green ones.
Yeah,
so
he got smaller
just
green
control
tomatoes.
the diseases on them. You'll have them till frost and keep them going.
That's right.
But I think he needs to ask himself: is there the possibility that he may have been over fertilizing just a little bit?
Okay.
Given the weather conditions that we have, you know.
All right. There you have it, Mr. Tommy. All right, 30 years, that's a long time.
Yep.
All right.
Not gonna
You get it
argue with
figured
that.
out, let us know, okay? All right, here's our next via email. I put too much fertilizer on my new plants. Is there anything I can do to save them? Miss Mary, what do you think about that?
I don't think you're going to save them.
You don't think you're going to save them?
I don't.
Okay. Too much fertilizer on the new plants.
Did it just burn them up, I assume, or?
Too much fertilizer can do that. Yeah, but is there anything that you can do to save them?
Dig them up.
Dig them up, okay.
That's a thought. You know. I've done that with blueberries before.
Okay,
Dig them up and replant them. But I wonder what kind of new plants they are. You know, the only thing that's going to, I wonder which fertilizer.
See, that's what I
too
wonder.
much. If it's nitrogen, stays out there from 4 to 6 weeks.
Right.
And water will take it out. And so if you over nitrate it, you got an immediate burn. And if they're still alive, probably going to be okay. If you put too much phosphorus out there, then he's got years to worry about that.
Right.
Put too much potash out there, it's just this year. Next year he doesn't probably need to add any potash. But if I were him, I would get a soil test and find out exactly how much too much
fertilizer, right?
But as far as moving the plants is an option.
Moving the plants is an option.
You can't we have no way of sucking lime
you can't take
or
it out.
fertilizer out of the soil.
You can't take it out.
Mother Nature will take it out eventually through leaching, and
see, that's
it's not
what I
a
thought.
good.
Yeah,
It's
you
not
could
a good thing
leach
to
it
do
out.
because it costs you money.
Yeah.
You waste money when you put too much fertilizer out, and you also potentially contaminate groundwater.
That's right.
And you don't want to do that. So that's why we
I always say
don't
the soil
guess.
test.
Don't guess
There
soil
you go.
test, and just put
There
out
you go.
what you need.
Put out what you need.
And you'll save you some trouble.
Yeah, you're exactly right. Yeah, because waiting on it to leach out or trying to flood that area to try to force it down.
Yeah.
I mean, you just don't know how much
Right.
is in it, and you can't get it out. It's going to be the deal. All right. So yeah, good options there. But yeah, why guess soil test, Ms. Mary? We say it all the time. Right. Ms. Mary, Mr. D, we're out of time. It's been fun.
Yeah, I've enjoyed it.
Thank you. Remember, we love to hear from you. Send us an email or letter. The email address is questions@familyplotgarden.com. And the mailing address is Family Plot, 7151 Cherry Farms Road, Cordova, Tennessee, 38016. Or you can go online to familyplotgarden.com. That's all we have time for today. Thanks for joining us. We just saw Mary show one way to do an Ikebana arrangement. If you want to see another style, head on over to familyplotgarden.com. We also have a great video with Mary about arranging grocery store flowers. I'm Chris Cooper. Be sure to join us next week for the Family Plot, Gardening in the Mid-South. Be safe.